Hello,
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I like your background.
Thank you. Well, thank you for agreeing to do this. It means a lot. And do you mind if I record it?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Um, well, I guess I'll start by sort of introducing myself. So my name's Kyle Clark. I'm in the deaf education program here at Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay.
And this interview is for one of the first major specific courses, just foundations of deaf education. We're trying to do a bunch of different assignments to replace the practicum experience that we're not having.
Oh, yes. The way of the world right now, huh?
Yeah. And I've actually been looking at DISD and your regional day school program for quite a while now.
Okay.
So I just decided to reach out and see if anyone would be interested.
You're smart because deaf ed teachers are needed everywhere. So if you can establish relationships beforehand and, we know when openings become available, that's a good decision.
I've seen the position was job of the month quite a few times this year
Yeah.
on your websites.
Yes.
Um, so I guess we could go ahead and get started then, if you're all right with that.
Yeah, sure.
Um, so the first thing I would really like is if you could just introduce yourself and
Sure.
sort of how you kind of got into the program and the position.
Yeah, so my name is Megan Larson, and this is my 13th year teaching as a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. I am originally from Michigan, and so I earned my bachelor's degree in deaf ed from Michigan State, and now their program is actually closed. I have a master's in early childhood, not related to deaf ed. And then I taught in Michigan for 10 years. I taught 2 years early elementary, total communication, self-contained classroom, and then 8 years at the high school level in a mainstream program that basically taught English, study skills, and supported them, the students in their mainstream classes. And then I moved to Texas, and I've taught at the middle school level for the last 2 years. And so we have students here who basically the general schedule is they're with a deaf ed teacher for reading, English, and math, and then they're mainstreamed for science, history, and then any electives that they have. So, and depending on their need, they are mainstreamed with an interpreter. So that's me. Yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you. So what sort of communication methods do most of your classrooms use, or do you specifically use?
So we're a total communication program. So in theory, we use whatever the students need. We have a wide range of students. Most of our students are more pigeon sign, I would say. We don't have a lot of strong ASL users. Myself, because I'm not a native signer, I am definitely more pigeon. The goal is always to be more ASL, but basically whatever the student needs is what I attempt to do. But that can be hard when you have students who are more oral and they don't sign at all in the same class as a student who's completely, a native signer and fluent in sign. So for me, I conceptually accurate, aim to be ASL as much as I can, but I do have to SimCom often just for sake of time. So I've become as good as you can get. I say good at SimComming because it's not ideal for anything, but you do get better at it as time goes on.
And so how large are your classes usually? I've seen on your sort of class page they link me to, you've got a few English and math courses, and then there was a science course.
Yeah, so we have 7th and 8th graders at our school. We have 10 total students right now, and 6 of them are 7th graders. 5 of them are in person. 1 is virtual. And then let me see if I can make 4 8th graders. 2 are virtual, 2 are in person. And so we have another deaf ed teacher at the school. And so we've kind of organized our classes so that we can teach reading and English on level versus like 7th grade English, 7th grade, or 8th grade English. So we, depending on the class, have 3 students because it's our lower level, and then we have 7 students for our higher grade level. So
Okay.
not grade level, but ability level. So our classes can have, and then we're all together for math. So our classes could have a total of 7 students altogether, or 10 students altogether, or 3. So it just kind of depends. Yeah. But all of our students are actually, they're mainstreamed for science and history.
Okay.
So we do, we're using Canvas right now. I don't know if you're familiar with Canvas.
Very familiar.
Okay, so that's thankfully, before the pandemic, we were already a Canvas school.
Okay.
So we used Canvas a lot. So the transition for us was a little bit easier. So we made, even though our students are mainstream for science and history, we made a Canvas Def Ed Texas history, Def Ed science, because we interpret all the videos, and, there's a lot of accommodations that we might provide, and it's just easier to do it in like a separate class. So I work with the gen ed teachers, and I basically transfer their content and interpret it, or we have interpreters who interpret it and make it accessible to our students.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the caption. There's some really good accessibility functions within Canvas as well.
Yes.
That
Yes.
things like Blackboard and all these other, like Google Classroom, just don't have.
Yes. I was a Google Classroom user for many years. And then when I moved here, I was like, no, I don't, but now I am a drinker of the Canvas Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
If you can do it right, it can be really great. So, yeah.
So what sort of note-taking do you do regularly to keep track of their speech progress or their literacy progress? And how might that influence your planning?
So like keeping track of like their IEP goals, is that kind of what you mean?
It's kind of like that. We just recently had sort of like a seminar, and they were talking, it was someone who's retired from the program now, but they talked about how generalizing to all Def Ed teachers, how they would take notes on their language progress, if their speech and things like that.
Okay, so all of our students right now receive speech and language services. So a lot of those goals are documented by the speech and language pathologist. But all of our students have what we call auditory and communication goals. And so it just depends on the kid. Canvas has actually been really beneficial for that because, it's different for each kid. So we'll basically make assignments in Canvas to assess them. Some of them, it's real life situations, so we can't. But in Canvas, if we can, we'll make an assignment where they have to, list their accommodations for their hearing accommodations, or look at like the parts of the ear and label it and that kind of thing. But I do like, we use a couple different things for like being on the fly. Are you familiar with Class Dojo?
A little bit, yes.
Okay.
I've heard of it before.
Okay, so it's like it's actually a behavior management program, but you give points to kids, and you give points for certain reasons. And so we've used that. We've created a point. It's actually a 0 point, but for just IEP documentation. So if we're out in the mainstream and something happens and you're like, oh, that's their goal, we got to document this, we can put it into Class Dojo. And so we'll use that when we're kind of on the fly. We have Google Forms set up where we will, document for each student. So have a Google form for each student and their goal, and kind of just quickly enter information. Because that's the hard thing about tracking progress and everything, is that it's just like keeping it all organized so that when it's time to do progress reports, being able to go to it and quickly, get the information that you need. So I use a variety of things. I also just have a like a old school calendar book that I just take notes on. That's helpful because we have 7 periods. So I'll just take notes in each period. These are very like shorthand little quick things. But for like formal documentation, we do use Class Dojo, and we use Google Forms And then really the whole speech and language part of it, when I moved to this district, I was concerned about our students' like language levels that I've seen in other programs that we should be higher. They should be higher. So we're working on, they would use the castles,
Okay.
the assessment castles, and they still do use that, but we're looking at other assessments for our signers, because just to know where they're at in their language. So sorry, I feel like I kind of went all over.
No, you're good. That's great. Do you work closely with the speech and language pathologist at all?
Yeah. So she comes weekly, and we will often like bounce goals off of each other, and sometimes it's something. She's very practical, and this is especially by middle school. There's not a lot of like articulation goals left. It's language, it's self-advocacy, that kind of thing. And so sometimes she'll say, have you seen them do this, or you've seen them do that? And we will, especially because I'm the English teacher, and my grammar goals often relate to hers. So we do work pretty closely on that whole language part of it.
Is Spanish or Mexican Sign Language or like trilingual students, are they present in your program at all?
So I have students who they're at home, their parents are Spanish speaking, but they themselves do not, they don't speak Spanish. I've had students before that are, yes. So I should say in the program, yes, this school year, we have students who have Spanish speaking parents, but they themselves are native signers. So they only communicate through sign. They don't have any type of speech. But I've had other students just last year that they speak English, learning sign language, and speak Spanish at home. So yes, they exist.
Okay, because I've seen the data for quite a few of your schools in the northern end of the district. That's close to 75, 80% English language learners. And I was just a bit curious.
Yeah, it makes for a really interesting IEP, because you'll have the sign language interpreter and you'll have the Spanish interpreter, and it's like all this language going on.
So what sort of involvement do you have with their parents or their families? Or
for me, it's really important to engage and have relationships with the parents, because we're all on the same team. And if they're not doing anything at home, or, like they have to know that we're on the same team. It can be really intimidating going into an IEP meeting and we have to say all this legal jargon, and, but it's their kid. And so I really try to be very transparent, communicate a lot. Class Dojo, it's basically like a Facebook feed for your classroom. And so parents love that. It's one way for them to kind of know. I'll just snap a picture and say, we're learning about body systems and science today. So that's one way that we engage parents, is to just give them a view into our everyday life, or, everyday school life. I also really am big on, when a kid does something well, tell their parents. Because oftentimes when the school calls, it's like, oh, they're in trouble, or they, and it's like, I really try to make a point of, hey, so-and-so did really well with this, in that. In normal school years, we usually have a sign language class that we offer, and we have a teacher of the deaf who is also Spanish speaking. And so she taught it the last 2 years so that we can reach those parents who are Spanish speaking. This year there was talks about trying to host it online, and I don't think that nothing has happened yet. But that's another way.
It's a busy year.
Right. Yeah. Nothing can be done normally.
Is there anything with the community as a whole that you guys like to do, and like community events where all the families can come together? Or?
We recently, last year, we got a new supervisor, which is a good thing. We did not have things like that. Where I worked in Michigan, we did. And it's really, really important, just because those families, they need each other, and it's part of our job to bring them together. So we have talked about doing program ride picnics, parent groups, that kind of thing. And again, I think with new leadership, it will happen after COVID. So right now, no, but it's definitely something that's needed.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I've had an interview recently with someone in my county who's also in the same position as you, and they were talking about um, sort of there's like a Lions Club. There's a bit more um, deaf community and deaf culture here as a whole, just because we have the Florida School for the Deaf and the Blind so close.
Yeah.
So they have like carnivals and then sort of the picnic days, like you were saying, and it does wonders for like the kids making friends and
it's huge.
Keeping them away from that isolation.
Right. And there's so many programs, there's so many administrators and who just put deafness as a disability, and they don't even realize the culture component of it. And that's part of our job is to, because I mean, what's the statistic? 95% of kids, deaf kids are born to hearing parents. They aren't born with that culture. It's part of our job to encourage that. So that's something that I've been kind of pushing for. Like, how do we help them build their culture and teach their families about their culture too? So.
Very cool.
Sorry, I have a student coming in, so I'm just going to turn my we're down an interpreter today, so it's fine.
Okay. Do you need to go at all?
No, it's fine. That's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I just have one question left.
Sure. Yeah.
So what would you say makes sort of your program or the area unique when compared to sort of the nation?
Yeah. I think. Hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
I told him it's okay. Yeah, he's fine. This is the last one too. I need to, but they're going to start in just a couple minutes. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. So I think the difference, to be honest, we've had some leadership for the last however many years that's now changed that has been kind of detrimental. I'll be frank. They and I don't know personal opinion, so if you I don't mean to offend you, but they were a big supporter of C, using sign exact English, and so which when I moved here I was like, no.
Yeah.
That's so anyways, that person is now gone. So our program has kind of had a negative view because of that. A lot of interpreters are like, I don't know C, I can't go there, I'm not qualified to work there. Even though it wasn't necessarily like we use C, it was like, okay, like an English class, I can see the benefits of it, of teaching certain things, you're breaking down the English language. So that being said, I think the difference in our program is the schools that we're in. In Arlington, the junior high that I'm at, we're the only school to get an A rating, only junior high to get an A rating from the state of Texas, in all of Arlington. And then the high school that we're at, it's a very, very, like they're all like top schools. And so I was always kind of like, there's no reason why we shouldn't be a top deaf ed program in this area, because we have the resources. We're in phenomenal schools. We have great mainstream teachers. We have great administrators, and really there has been kind of a little bit of a darker cloud over the program because of the leadership and the philosophy, and that is thankfully now changing, but it takes time too. So our new supervisor is a former teacher, which is always a huge plus because she knows what it's like. She taught here, and so she is doing a lot of really good things to try and improve our program. So I would say the difference right now is the schools that we're in. Like, we're in really, really good schools. Oftentimes, if you get a deaf ed program, especially in a bigger city, you're not always gonna be, and this is I guess not nice to say, but it's the reality, and it's where I've worked for many years. But it's a city school, and you're not always going to get the same resources. But that's not true here. Here we have they're three of the best schools where our program is located. And so I'm hopeful with new leadership, because we really have great kids, we have great teachers. There's just been kind of this over the top kind of black cloud a little bit that's been, kind of negative. So I look at it as like we're kind of rebuilding and rebranding, and that's how my supervisor is looking at it too.
Yeah, and that honestly is really enticing. I love hearing that, thinking like I'm about to apply in a couple years. I can get in on that. That sounds really
Yeah.
awesome.
Really, I'm like when I, thinking about like Fort Worth is right next to us, and this,
Mhm.
it's a good program. I'm not, but the schools that they're in, they're not always safe. They're not always, and it's like this where we're at now. They're really, really good schools, and I'm like, there's no reason why we shouldn't be a very good program. So, and I shouldn't say that we aren't. We are, but I think that it's been more like elementary school, middle school, high school, and not this whole program, and
There's always that room for improvement.
exactly, yeah. So
Well, I think that's a great line to end on.
yeah.
Great question to end on.
Well,
Not to toot my own horn, I didn't mean it that way. Just your answer is what
oh
I
no,
meant.
okay. Yeah. And honestly, anytime I know, what it's like getting started. And if you need anything, you have resource here. Samantha is my co-teacher, and she's been teaching. This is her 11th year, I think. If you have any questions, you need any resources, or please feel free to reach out. We're happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, it was nice meeting you.
You too.
All right.
Bye.